G'day folks. Well, just before I call it quits this afternoon, I figured I'd have a look at this Kelvinator / Westinghouse or whatever it is, Electrolux generic Chinese modern air conditioner. Not often I bother with these, but I figured it's worth it since this one's almost new. Yeah, Electrolux Kelvinator, made in China. It's 5.8 kilowatts cooling, 5.5 heating, 240 volts mains at 8.8 amps, almost 9 amps, and it has 1.2 kilos of R22 in it. The problem with this unit is that everything runs, but it never calls for compressor, or if it does, it doesn't do anything. My mate bought this for like $10 at the junkyard. The guy who had it was bitching and moaning about not getting anything for it, so he saw that it was fairly new and just offered him $10 for it as a fixer-upper. And as soon as he realised it's all solid-state electronics, he pretty much gave up and sold it to me for $10. So if I can fix it for free, then it's a good $10 air conditioner, especially considering the physical size of it. This thing's a lot bigger than the smaller, other cheaper units that I've had before. It's probably the biggest modern air conditioner, or modern window air conditioner that I've had. And I figure it's worth fixing, even if I do have to turn it all into a manual system. Now that looks like a start capacitor. That is the compressor relay block. Everything's resinized, so you can't service or repair it. This camera does not autofocus, so it's a Type ACS2, made in 2006. So the unit's fairly old, but it's very low hours. There's very little oxidation on the coils, very little dirt in it. You'd be lucky if it's run more than 24 hours, I'd say. Yeah, this thing has seen very little use. It's just mostly been sitting around gathering dust. Like, this coil's spotless. The filter and the front panel never came with it, but I do have the outer casing. Either way, let's turn some power on. Let's try heat mode. So you can hear a loud click from the reversing valve, and nothing, no call for compressor. So I've got to see if I'm getting power down here, and also try and pull all this out. If I take most of these screws out, this whole lot should slide out as one unit. But yeah, at the moment it's cut the fan because it's waiting for a temperature signal from this. Once that reads a certain temperature to the control board, it will enable the fan, but because the compressor's not running, the coil's not going to get hot. So even warming this up won't do anything. Well, actually no, if I do warm it up enough, it'll start the fan, but that's all it will do. So I have to restore compressor activity before anything else will happen. I guess I better get the test meter out and see what it wants to do. There isn't even a humming, it's not even trying to start or run the compressor. So that tells me it's more of a control issue than a bad cap or something silly like that. If a run cap goes bad, you normally just hear the compressor humming, and then its thermal overload will go out, or current overload will click out, and you just hear this click hum series of events. But this isn't even trying. The lights don't dim, it doesn't click, it doesn't hum, it doesn't do anything. So yeah, it's completely lost control and voltage somewhere to the compressor. Could be this thing, could be in there. Anywho, better get the meter onto it and find out for sure, otherwise I'll chuck it back in the back of my car and drop it off at the scrapyard again. Although if the compressor's not burnt out, I might as well recover the R22, because 1.2 kilos of good, clean, barely used R22 is going to become a commodity eventually once they phase it out. Just like R12, I can't really find that in any reasonable amount anymore, and it's usually coming out of very old refrigerators which have very tired compressors. There's probably contaminants in it, might be a bit of burnt varnish residue in it. It's not worth recovering, not if you want to put it into another system. So yeah, word of advice, when they phase out R22, you'll wish you'd been collecting it, because it's going to get expensive. G'day folks. I'm just troubleshooting this. It's a Electrolux Kelvinator branded generic Chinese 5.8 kilowatt heat pump window type unit. It's almost new. It's got very few running hours and the controller's died. Well, it's not dead, it does everything apart from start the compressor. So I'm just backtracking how this system works. Essentially it just uses digital control to switch on this main compressor relay and it should start and run. But I don't think it's even getting a signal. And that's control on it. Got a thermistor and a normal temperature probe for the indoor air temp. All that seems to work. If I change the temperature I can hear relays clicking, but nothing else seems to happen. So just got to backtrack and work out what does what. It's a bit odd that there's no other terminal connected to that relay down there, but I don't know, it's probably drawing its mains power off the board and it goes to the relay coil. So I'm going to plug it in and see what it does. There's also a starting kit here with a start capacitor as well. So it's designed for hard starting. That's the run cap, that's the start cap, and the potential relay and its control equipment. All potted in epoxy, of course, so you can't service it. So if all else fails, I'm going to rip the guts out of this completely and just put a manual control box in it. Okay, well I found the problem with it. The main relay coil is open circuit. The coil looks fine, but there's something underneath it, a little blue, probably a thermal fuse or something. Probably very unnecessary, but I'm just going to replace the whole thing. I don't have any more of these simply because the good ones I use very quickly, and the cheap ones like this, oops, I don't even bother keeping. But I've got a million of these things sitting on the shelf doing nothing, and they're virtually indestructible unless you over amp them. So I'll use one of these. There's a bunch more down here. Same deal. There's a little Telemecanique one. Yeah, they're all good little things. That one there might be a bit easier to mount up actually. Either way, I'll check to make sure they all work alright. You can pop these apart and just open them up, make sure the magnetic cores are all rust free. Worst thing is you get water in them and the cores rust up and they start vibrating, humming. So yeah, should be pretty good though. Okay, so it's a DC coil, but it's got its own tiny little rectifier and capacitor in there. And that little metal oxide capacitor or whatever it is has just gone open. You can see it's spewing metallic sludge out the front of it, and I'm guessing this rectifier is also open circuit. Tiny little thing. But yeah, Chinese shit. Not reliable. Since these run off AC, those ones there run off DC, so I'll put a normal AC contactor in this thing and it should work just fine. If I come across a proper drop-in, good quality relay like that one, it'll be alright too, but for a garage window air conditioner, it'll do just fine. It'll still be safe, it's just there's no safety feature being deleted by using one of these. This is no different to the relay that's replacing, except it's much more solid. Same with this one. They're all standard 16 amp contactor. The relay that was in here was rated to 30 amps, and this unit barely pulls 9 amps at maximum load. So it's well overrated, but the little rectifier thing inside it failed. So that was its weak point. These things here are current trips, adjustable current trips for electric motors. You can adjust that to how many amps you want it to trip out on, and that's just a reset button. I've got a series of bimetal strips in there which heat up and then open a contact once the motor amps rise too high. It's a motor protection thing. Kind of neat. These came off of electric motors obviously. They're a starting control for electric motors. Okay, well this thing's hosed. I found out why it died. Had it running alright, full fan, standard run cap. I deleted this start cap and its little protection module and relay module. Ran fine for about 10 minutes, and now there's a ton of heat radiating off this compressor. and it simultaneously took out the main breaker on this panel, which is about 25 amps, and the safety switch at the same time, which is a GFI switch, ground fault interrupter. So it took out a 25 amp circuit breaker and an earth leakage breaker simultaneously when it died. So my guess is this thing was going into protection mode as soon as it tried to start up. I got it to the point where the main relay was replaced, but this thing was obviously protecting by shutting the compressor down as soon as it detected overcurrent. I'm guessing that's all this was doing, because now that it's wired up correctly with a standard run capacitor, it's just burnt out and taken everything out. So, oh well, this thing can go to the junkyard. No big loss, I only paid 10 bucks for it, and I'll scrap the rest of it. Unfortunately, it's burnt refrigerant, so I can't even recover the damn thing. I'm not going to recover this shit into one of my bottles if the compressor's fried. Oh well, I'll just push it off the trailer at the scrapyard and they can deal with it, just like everyone else does. Thanks for watching, folks.